Sup, everybody. Apologies. I had HoYoverse in my DMs there. Let me just mute them real quick. You know me, constantly on Dawei's radar. The man's just like, bro, if you step out of line one more time, I swear to God, I will call in a SWAT team. I don't care where you live. I'm gonna get rid of you, man. I was like, oh, come on, Dawei, it's just a joke. And but Dawei doesn't take no for an answer, so you know, we have to tread lightly going forward, considering how HoYoverse has had a target on me this whole time, exposing their contents and characters almost a year in advance. Oh my goodness! But welcome, everybody. So once again, if you guys don't know, I've been receiving a wave of accusations for looking at leaks, because if you guys remember, how long ago was it? Almost half a year ago, I was talking about how HoYoverse has to make new Geo characters to somehow fix Crystallize. Remember that? I mean, the OG viewers would remember me saying that like 6 months or so ago, like right when we just got into Sumer. I think it was like 3.0, 3.1. And then I was saying, like, you know what HoYoverse has to do before they continue to flesh out more content is that they need to start fleshing out the currently existing ones. So first and foremost, Melt is non-existent, right? Melt is non-existent, and Crystallize is just utterly dysfunctional. Crystallize doesn't work. It exists for no reason. Nobody plays Crystallize. Like, you can't design a game around these synergies and reactions, and then you just have one sitting there on the sidelines not doing anything, right? That's what I said. I said HoYoverse, prior to figuring out all the future stuff, like developing on currently working models of reactions and synergies, they have to first fix what's broken, or else, like, when the foundation is not solid, get it? Because Geo's Crystallize foundation, kind of funny, but if they don't fix these issues, once they try to develop it, like once they try to scale it up, it just doesn't work. So we'll see what they do. And now people are saying, Walrus, you know, you look at leaks, right? Obviously you look at leaks, because once or twice it's fine, but when you do it every time, or not every time, I get things wrong. I think I have like a 60-70% accuracy when it comes to predicting this stuff. I don't get it right all the time, but when I do get it right, it feels pretty interesting. I mean, interesting because it's a lose-lose situation. I get it right, I get called a leaker. I don't get it right, people call me cope, right? Like there's no winning here. Melt Ganyu exists. What? Okay, this is what I'm going to tell you right now. Once like actual Melt starts coming in and working, you're gonna look at Melt Ganyu and be like, okay, you know, that was an interesting, like, rudimentary way to play, because Melt Ganyu works in a similar way to Vaporize, right? We took what we knew of Vaporize and we applied it to Melt. Even though in-game mechanics it can work that way, I don't think optimally HoYoverse wants to design it that way. These characters were not initially designed to function in this manner. They could, like, it's just like you can play Dehya as an Overload, you can play Dehya as a Vaporize, you can play Dehya as whatever the hell you want, right? You can play Xingqiu as a Freeze, you can play Yelan as a Freeze driver, like you can play the game however you want. These synergies exist however you want it. You can play Crystallize, right? All these things, it's just that it's likely not optimal, it's not perfectly in sync. When all 4 units in the team perfectly synergize with each other, you guys know how that feels. And in the case of, like, I would say Melt Ganyu, I would say there's 70 to 80% synergy there. It's great and it's very powerful, like Bennett's Burst, right? Really works well with Ganyu. And if you have Zhongli in there or something like that, right? But the Zhongli's pillar sometimes to take away the application, and it causes like dysfunctionality within the team. So then you have to put Zhongli's pillar kind of away from where you want to cause melt. And also you can't use Ganyu's burst if you want to melt every single time. Well, you could if you're just a god gamer, but you know, like, these things exists within that synergy where it's just like, if only it was just a little bit better, if only it was just a teeny bit better, let's say, like, these problems didn't exist, and maybe that team would have better synergy. But if you truly look at that team and you compare it to another really meta team with like Raiden National or something like that, right, you quickly start to see when a perfectly synergized team versus just a subpar team, there is a discrepancy. There's a discrepancy, and it's very noticeable. However, what I want to say is future melt teams, get this, future melt teams with cryo characters designed not for freeze but for melt, and pyro characters designed not for vaporize and for melt, and we have dendro characters thrown in there as well, because let's just be honest here, there's no way HoYoverse is gonna let dendro slip out of the meta when it comes to melt. It's just how business is. They figured it out already, so it's gonna happen. Mark my words, right? Don't call me somebody who looks at leagues when a year down the line they flesh out melt and it has dendro in it, and you're pretty much forced to play dendro, because really it's not too difficult to think about it like that. If you were a businessman, if you were running this business, you would do the same thing. Okay, you would do the same thing because it maximizes profit, right? Involving a third element to play one synergy. So yeah, I think it's gonna still take some time. I don't know if HoYoverse is gonna develop Crystallize first, or it's gonna develop, or they're gonna develop Melt first. But what I can tell you is these two things has to kind of eventually get fleshed out. I don't know when. It could be a month, 2 months, 3 months. It could be a year, 2 years from now. But before the game finishes, this is like something they have to work on. And in my opinion, they should work on this before they start fleshing out other aspects of the game, right? I think the Dendro synergies and reaction system has really highlighted just how poorly designed the old systems were. I think the Dendro really highlighted the shortcomings of the rest of these reactions. Although Dendro did lift although Dendro did lift Electro up from the gutter, it has yet to prove itself in terms of, you know, even in melt. And at the same time, when you look at things like Crystallize and stuff, how can you say that these two things exist in the same like game? Like I refuse to even believe that Crystallize and Dendro are designed by the same team. In fact, I'll go as far as to say that I don't believe the same team designed it. There's just too big of a difference. It's too big. Yeah, and then there's people talking about Shatter. I think Shatter is Shatter. You know what's funny, chat? Shatter is likely played more than Shatter is likely played more than Crystallize. And I'm not saying this like as a meme or anything. I'm just stating facts. I truly think there's more people, because okay, this is the difference. Shatter, it's like you play Shatter for Shatter. Why do you play Crystallize? Like there's no other way to play Shatter except Shatter. Does that make sense? But Crystallize, its function is giving you a shield, right? But there are so many other characters that gives you shields. In fact, Zhongli's shield even debuffs enemies, right? Aura debuff. So you remember the artifact set. What was that artifact set? It's like the Tetra. There's like this artifact set that like I remember it could reduce. Oh no, it was somewhere here. I think it was this one. Oh, it's not reduced. It's gains 35% damage bonus for that particular element, right? But you see, there's a contradiction in here. And what is that contradiction? That is, oftentimes, if you're running a certain elemental type to generate a type of shield, it's because the enemy is of that same elemental type. For example, if you're fighting a Pyro Abyss Mage, then you're going to get a Pyro shield very easily. However, what the hell is the point of gaining 35% Pyro damage against enemies who are already Pyro infused? Or like Pyro enemies, like Pyro Slimes, Pyro Abyss Mages. Like, you know, like it's just... What this could have done is... like, if you get... No, it doesn't work because they never establish it, right? If they had like an establishment of Pyro is here, Hydro is here, Cryo is here, Electro is here, and Anemo here, Geo there, and at the center is Dendro, or something like that, like a weird diagram, then they can say the opposite reaction gains, the opposite element gains 35% damage bonus. That could work because oftentimes you'll bring a Hydro, so if you get a Pyro shield, Hydro gains 35%, stuff like that. It just overcomplicates things a little bit, but it really helps. But this, nobody plays it. Although on paper, a 35% damage bonus for that particular element is amazing. This is an amazing buff. Value-wise, this is this is an amazing buff. But it's just so like damn hard to actually utilize it efficiently, right? Ning News is asking, how would you fix the geo reactions? Ning News, I'm glad you asked. I actually said this in the past, but that was kind of just like on the spot, and I thought about this. Now get this, chat. I think Crystallize has no identity issues. Let me get this out of the way first, okay? Don't think that they need to completely scrap Crystallize and start from scratch. No. Crystallize has no identity issue. It has like a balance issue, meaning that it's just not giving us enough, right? So think about it like this. Shields right now don't stack, okay? Shields don't stack. It doesn't matter like if you have Zhongli, like doesn't matter. It's just not a mechanic. And I think the core mechanic of Crystallize is stacking your shields. Oh, my camera's frozen. Let me fix that real quick. One moment. Okay. Hold up. Let me unfreeze myself. Give me a moment here. Okay, we're back. So where was I? Okay. No identity issue, balance issue, right? So I think crystallized shields should be able to stack. Like, first and foremost, that's like the first change they should do, because crystallized shields are not strong by like any means. They break very easily. The whole point, and also crystallized shields should not drop on the ground. Instead, they should immediately be applied onto your character. When a crystallized reaction happens, immediately whatever element caused that reaction, that shield should immediately appear around your character. Immediately. You shouldn't have to go up and run up and like pick it up. It should just immediately appear. So in theory, if you play a team with enough geo application, as well as elemental application, you should have permanent shields that stack. All elemental shields that stack, and there should be an effect with Crystallize. When you stack up to 3 different elemental shields on your character, you get bonuses. So starting from the 3rd shield and then the 4th shield or something like that, right? And once you get like all shield, if you have all elemental shield applied on you, you get a huge damage bonus. So you can now leverage the enemy's elemental type as well as your own team. For example, if you have a Hydro team to combat a Pyro team, you can still get full stacks if the enemy has enough like variance like that. So overall, what ends up happening is Crystallize suddenly turns into, oh my goodness, Hannah. sorry about that jump scare. But my point is, overall, then Crystallize turns into this universally helpful element that balances defense and offense, and you're not really forced to bring Zhongli, and then you can start bringing other Geo characters that can become damage bonuses, because a lot of people keep complaining, oh, Zhongli is a damage loss, Zhongli is a damage loss. Yeah, but if you don't take Zhongli, then you don't have the consistency of a shield to deal damage in a comfortable environment, right? So this fixes both problems. Yes, it will diminish Zhongli's role in the game, but I think it's okay, because then it opens up doors to so many, like for example, Albedo shoots up. Albedo would just shoot up in the tier list. I guarantee you, if that becomes true, Albedo shoots up, because Albedo is a damage gain. He actually facilitates a lot of off-field damage. Right? But Zhongli is still good if you don't want to bother with the mechanic of balancing elements and stuff like that. Oh, I don't want to bring a bunch of different elements, right? Then just stick with Zhongli. It's fine. It's okay. Zhongli works. Right? So that's how I would rebalance Crystallize. I don't want Crystallize to turn into like another like a Nemo thing, right? I think the core value of defense should stick there, but just allow more potency. Let there be more strength. Let us actually be able to rely on the shields, as opposed to be constantly wondering when it's going to break. Allow the shields to stack infinitely, maxing out at like 4 different layers, like 4 and each restacking of the shield refreshes the what do you call it? Every restacking of the shield refreshes all the shield's duration as well. So basically, you are invincible unless the enemy just does so much damage. And also, of course, anti-shield. Let's be honest, a lot of people say, whoa, Walrus refreshes all their cooldowns. That means like you're just permanently shield. Are you not permanently shield playing Zhongli right now? Like, right? And that those shields don't really offer you that much in terms of protection. They'll break very easily. So you're not really going to be easily able to sustain like max shield if you're fighting, let's say right now, the current Abyss 12-1 and 2, right? Wouldn't being invincible as a reaction be OP? Well, it's not like invincible, right? There's still anti-shield. Like this, Crystallize would be useless against the Rift Hounds, for example. Everything that makes shields useless is also countering Crystallize. So there's a whole meta of enemies that are countering the shield meta. But this would make Crystallize incredibly powerful. And for people who don't have Zhongli or people who don't want to pull Zhongli, right? Crystallize suddenly becomes an option. If you don't want to play like CC, if you just want to play a Juggernaut playstyle, you don't like the whole Venti, Kazuha, right, Sucrose, you don't like Viridescence, then play Crystallize. Right? Crystallize is the alternative playstyle to people who don't want to play like these crazy elemental synergies, whereas you just want enough elemental variance in your combat to stack your shields to a point where you are comfortable fighting your enemies. It's a much more relaxed playstyle, in my opinion. Ooh. They're not going to throw Wolfhounds in every abyss. Exactly. So most abysses, it's just like having Zhongli, but with less, I guess, less effectiveness with the shield. Because Zhongli's shield has a AoE or a shred, right? Zhongli is a great balance between Viridescence as well as the perfect defense. Whereas Crystallize is not going to have the strength of Zhongli's shield, nor the debuff of Viridescence. So kind of think Viridescence is like a in between the middle. And the conditions of stacking 3 or 4 shield to get additional bonuses, it's going to be very difficult to sustain. You can achieve it, but then you have to time it very well. So it puts a lot of onus on the players to kind of, for example, use your burst when you get 4 shield to get that max damage bonus, right? Stuff like that. So it also keeps the game alive, keeps the player on the toes. So like when you realize you have like 4 shields, maybe there's like a visual effect that like, oh, your shield kind of merged into 1 shield. Yeah, like for example, if you get to 4 shield, all your elemental shield merge into 1 like special shield, and then it has its own duration. And then once it's broken or used up, it just breaks and you have to start stacking from scratch. But in that moment, you have a stronger shield with 4 different elemental resistances, and it gives your on-field character a huge damage boost, something like that. I think like Crystallize should be a defensive focused reaction. And if you want like if you want to mess around, you can also try bringing Nahida with her like bringing Nahida with her EM buffing and then try to buff the shield and whatever the stuff like that. Like I know this is just me like spouting BS right now, but I honestly would really enjoy that type of playstyle. Now, I think people kind of have gotten settled in. We can now jump to the discussion of CN community response to Dehya, right? So if you guys came into the live stream seeing the title, I'm sure you guys want to hear a little more about CN. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be going through the comment sections of my video and talking about certain points. So especially ones, let me just open the video here first real quick so then I can scroll down to the comments. So comments that have a lot of like upvotes and that are more like more people are engaging with, I will jump in and kind of talk about it and try to unravel the discussions there for you guys, because I mean, I guess first and foremost, it's not truly fair of me to say like I fully understand what the CM players are thinking. After reading the forum post for a couple days and just kind of scouring, believe it or not, very few posts are actually about Dehya, if you guys can believe it. Sure, like CN does care, but they don't care to the degree that we think they do. And also, I think there's a certain level of biasness because we engage on the, like, when it comes to Genshin, whatever is the most hotly discussed topic oftentimes gets kind of put on blast. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is talking about it. All your content creators are talking about it. They're tweeting on Twitter, and then there's a lot of engagement. But very few of these topics actually stick with us beyond like a couple weeks. And again, and on CN, especially on NGA, which is like the Reddit of CN, they're very aware of these kind of topic risings and dips. So they don't really focus a lot of efforts and time on topics that they think are not of permanence, meaning they are very aware. And I'm sure you guys are too. Like, come on, let's be real in chat here. How many of you guys think that the whole Dehya discussion is going to survive for another like month? Right? Like, be real. Type 1 in chat if you think people are still going to be actively talking about Dehya a month from now. Type 2 if you think this thing is going to get dropped very quickly. Right? Like, just in chat. Just let me know, because as much as I want to like bring some more attention to this and like show you guys more from the CN perspective, CN pretty much already knows where this is headed, and they've decided to just cut it off right here, like just done. Like, don't waste their time, don't waste our time, don't waste HoYoVerse's time, because they know the community is not like actually backing this, and it's just like a fad in the moment that is cool to talk about, cool to, you know, share this kind of stuff, and it's not going to get anywhere because they can see there's a lack of true interest. How much of it is just internet clout farming versus people who actually care about the issue? I guess that's like a way to put it. Okay. Tech devices wars, even Yen mostly logic no point in beating a dead horse. Exactly. I think if there were more like people who backed this movement, that we could have maybe tried to push for something. But the fact that even the initial wave was so weak, there's really nothing to talk about, right? And to try to start. So how should we do this? Should we just jump into the screen here like this? This feels kind of weird. I feel like I'm exposing people. Is this okay? I mean, is this okay? I feel like we can see people's username. Do you guys want me to go through like this, or do you guys want me just to read them anonymously? I mean, you guys can follow through if you go to the video and see. Like, I'm just going to be opening up. If you guys are, type 1 if you guys are okay with me reading these people's, like, showing these users. I mean, it's public, right? This is my video. Yeah, this is my video. So it's not, I'm not using someone else's. Yeah, I think it's fine because they're all public here. Like, if you guys want to read it, it's all here as well. We're just going to go down this, go to the comment section and kind of talk. Okay. All right. So most people are fine. Yeah, you guys are fine with it. Yeah, I think it should be fine. Should be fine for science, right? For science, for science. Okay. See, let's go like this. Okay. So this is the top comment. Let's just kind of go through here and see. I agree with the controversial opinion that Dehya was originally intended to be a standard. Wasn't originally intended to be a standard banner character. I think it's hard to deny since from a business point of view, there's actually a lot of reasons not to randomly add a new character to the standard banner like this. With Tainari, everybody knew from the very start that he was going to be a standard. Yeah, it's before the live stream. It's not just believable, but highly probable that the choice was made at the last minute. Now, every time they announce a new character, people are going to worry that there'll be a trash tier character who's going to be thrown unceremoniously, tossed into the posy release. Now, I don't know if that idea is that intention right now. Okay, so this actually is a point that I've seen a lot of CN posts echo. So remember, we're focusing on the CN side of things, right? This is okay. CN is surprisingly controversial. Remember, I said they're from what I've seen on the NGA forums, it seems like they're more logic driven, but sometimes their logic is not backed up by anything. Like, they're trying to make it sound logical, but they have no facts. It's quite literally like, bro, trust me. They are, but at the same time, you have to understand, living within China, and like they're constantly surrounded by Chinese businesses who do the same thing. Do you guys know what Tencent is? Right? If you guys know what Tencent is like the biggest I think they're like the biggest gaming company in the world right now, period. They're like the Disney of the gaming industry, if that makes sense. So Tencent is a Chinese company. They own like League of Legends. They own like a bunch of different IP. I think they even partially own like Blizzard or something like that. So Tencent is like, has been doing crap like this for years. And like at this point, maybe even over a decade. It's just, they're very snotty. They're very good at like manipulating information. They're very good at like just milking player base overall. It's always like quantity over quality for the most part. They're constantly releasing titles that are pay to win, and they actually have a lot of influence in a lot of your likely favorite game titles, at least here and there. And the way certain games, and I'll be honest with you guys, the direction that modern day video games monetization has went towards is largely impacted by what the decisions Tencent has. So when a controversial topic like this arises, especially in CN, they won't hesitate to just immediately pin it on like these big mega corporations doing something shady in order to kind of either dodge a bullet or try to maximize profits, right? So if, let's say, suddenly they change a character's constellations last minute to get more people to whale for it, or suddenly they decided to, like in this case, very popular character, they just throw it in the standard banner because they don't want to power creep the game. They don't want you guys to have a strong pyro character prior to Natlin. Let's say they want Natlin to be the time when everybody drops a lot of money on strong pyro characters. So right now they just refuse to create anything of substance in the pyro category. Even side grading towards Yangling will give you guys a secondary option. Look at what happened to Yelan, right? So that's where CM players immediately think of. Like they just jump immediately to that and be like, yeah, there's no way, because HoYoverse is too scared of making another Yelan. So let's say if Dehya came out and she's really strong and people started wailing for her, now you have people who have like C6 Yelan, and then now they have C6 C6 Dehya. Why would you ever need future characters, right? Even whales. Think about it like this. When it comes to HoYoverse and Tencent, even whales are constantly dancing in the palm of their hands, because they imagine having somebody who they know can drop $3,000-$4,000 on the game every single patch. They would never want them to stop. In the perfect HoYoverse world, they want them to drop $3,000 to $4,000 every month until they quit the game, if ever, right? Until HoYoverse decide to close down the servers. That's what they want. So just think about it like this. There are decisions that in the game that goes towards whale baiting, and there are decisions into the game that goes towards FOMOing free to play and low spenders. They always want to turn they always want to turn free to plays into low spenders to mid-tier spenders to big time spenders, and big time spenders into whales. That's like, they're constantly trying to do this, and CN is very sensitive to this, extremely sensitive. They will not hesitate to call it out. But when it comes to CN culture and gaming culture in CN in general, it's so prevalent and in their faces day in, day out. Some of the people who are playing Genshin right now live like they don't know a world outside of aggressive monetizations. Think about that for a second. Just pause and think. Like, some of you guys probably know a world where games were more free to play friendly, or especially if you grew up in the West or played more Western titles, you would know you pay a flat sum of money for games, and then you just play the game. You enjoy it for whatever the hell time you want, and then you can move on. You can come back to it, whatever. You paid for it, it's yours. But there are a large amount of people in CN who don't even know of a world where games were like free or you paid one time for it. Like right now, the teenagers, like the 13, 14-year-olds in China right now, they don't know that world. They don't know that world existed. Right? It's just like some of you guys don't know a world of going to Blockbuster and renting out a movie to watch. Some of you guys know it, some of you guys don't. So that's why CN is much more sensitive to this stuff. They know about it. Trust me, they know. They just don't see it as a big issue. It's talked about. It's constantly brought up. I see it in the forums, and they call these companies shady. It's like, oh, but this is how it's always been. That's their attitude towards it. Look, but that's just how it is. You know, like, hey, that's gaming for you, and then they move on. So they don't really dwell on it. So let's see what other people are talking about. Leaks about Dehya being in the standard banner were out way before the live stream. People just chose not to believe them, so it wasn't some last minute decision. Now this one I cannot really comment on it. I actually, believe it or not, when I was on the NGA forum, I didn't see many people talking about leaks. Now, it could be one, it's because that forum may be heavily monitored by HoYoverse, or B, that there are other forums and other avenues that talk about leaks more. Think about it like this. On Reddit, you don't really see an insane amount of leaks, because especially on the main like subreddit, right? Because it's monitored and it's filtered out. But if you go on Twitter, if you go onto these other websites, you'll see a ton more of leaks. There are like avenues for people to look at leaks. And so far, what I've noticed is NGA. There's some. It's not like it doesn't. There's some. It's not like it doesn't exist, but it's not as much as I thought it would have been. Reddit got hella leaks, yes, but you gotta go to certain subreddits, right? I believe the main subreddit, at least when I was on it, I didn't see much leaks. This like forum that I was on is like the legit Genshin Impact forum, so it's like the main Genshin forum. Let's see. Show more replies. Let's see if anybody else was talking about Mahoyo bit off more than they can chew making live service game. Who is he responding to? Train Core. There's a lot of people responding to Train Core. Train Core. Do you guys see Train Core? Train Core. Okay. So let's see what Train Core said. I think Mahoyo bit off more than they can chew making a live game service, to be honest. Very sloppy. Some quests have voices, some doesn't. Some weapons and artifacts look like they would match certain characters, but do not. Their expectations don't become reality, and they give us half-assed content and bad characters that pumped out to keep up the status quo. Okay, this is interesting, because when I was reading a lot of the NGA forums, this is actually like, I'd say 20 to 30% of the users felt similar to this. Is that HoYoverse is here to fill a status quo, and they talk about this all the time in CN as well. For example, do you guys remember when Shenhe first came out? A lot of people in China did not really like her design and her outfit, especially being like they praise her up to be like raised by kind of like godly figures, yet she dresses like that, if you guys know what I mean, right? Like, sure, it's a fantasy world, and maybe that's like how gods want to dress in fantasy worlds, you know, but like, let's be honest, let's not give HoYoverse too much credit here. This is what CN is saying, okay? That's not how, you know, like someone of a celestial upbringing should be dressing. Like, it's just improper, it's indecent, and stuff like that, right? And then like people were discussing, and they're like, yeah, but you know, HoYoverse needs to sell the characters, so they have to make her look like that. And they're very aware of it, but they were heavily criticizing it. And they're just like, how come every time females come out and you guys make them look like you know, like strippers or something like that? Very indecent. They're like, why can't you guys just make normal looking characters, like female characters? Why does all these characters have to be overly sexualized? Believe it or not, CN was criticizing HoYoverse for over sexualizing their characters. And and it's not like CN characters, it's not like CN players don't like sexualized characters. It's just they say there's a time and place for them, and Genshin from the very beginning was not built up to be a game that sexualized these characters, right? It's a game that focuses on its story, adventure, and combat system. Sure, have some level, like you can make a skin in the future, but why do the base characters have to look like this? So When it comes to quest and voice lines, I actually haven't seen people really complain about this. But yeah, there's complaints about HoYoverse filling a certain agenda. They have like these tick, like they have these check boxes that have to check off for these female characters, and most of the check boxes, like, is there enough cleavage? Do they have skin tight bodysuits? You know, are their toes showing or something like that? Do they have any more like? How about shoulders? If like, oh, you gotta at least show skin in like 3 different parts of their bodies or something like that. It's ridiculous, and like some CN players really were rubbed the wrong way because of that, and that's like I've actually seen that happen. Walruss, that is not a good criticism. How about criticism of the gameplay and kit? Gameplay and kit, they do have criticisms for it. For example, remember when Eula first came out, CN players really didn't like how her animation flowed. I couldn't find like the original post for that, but I do remember that was a thing, and it was a CN specific complaint. They do complain about kits, but what I've realized is they don't complain about kits the same way we complain about kits. We see it more macro, right? The EN community immediately try to work out potential synergies, like just the big picture. It's like, oh, like in the grand scheme of things, this character is dysfunctional. But CN is like, you know, on the 3rd animation of her attack, especially when I'm looking at her from a 45-degree angle, there's a clipping motion that causes my Dehya's left arm to kind of wiggle a little bit. You gotta fix that. That's the kind of shit they always talk about, which is like, it doesn't really make sense to me why that's important. But like, CM players would make a lengthy post talking about like these kind of things, right? They're really crazily detail oriented to a point where I'm just like, are you just looking for issues? Like EM players, I feel like we're talking about things that affect more people. Like the problems we bring up, EM players don't complain as much as CN players. Trust me, CN players are insufferable when it comes to complaining. I think this is one of the reasons why HoYoverse don't listen to them, because they're so ridiculous sometimes with their complaints, right? But EM players, like global, at least the theory crafters here, were very like function focused. Okay, let's talk about features, functions, and whatnot. But but CM players, they're crazy. Some of them are crazy. I also have seen. Like actually, believe it or not, there are CM players who constantly look at EN forums and quote our contents, like our complaints and stuff like that. And yes, there's a portion of CN who thinks we're insufferable. Can you believe that? Coming from the guy who's like nitpicking auto attack animations and clipping and shit. But yeah, it's the two communities are actually more intermingled than you guys would believe. It truly is. Especially if you guys watch this video that I uploaded this video, there's a post where like very recently, it was posted just a day or two ago. Where is it? Oh yeah, here. It was posted a day or two ago, and they actually I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, they took the post from EN. I can't. Here, let me. They took the post from EN and they posted it to NGA, and they were discussing it, right? They were discussing this post and they were giving their feedbacks and stuff like that. But CN is much more critical, and one of the top responses and comments was basically saying like, none of this is concrete enough, especially like number 4, increase our multipliers. What do you mean? Like how much? Give us the exact amount of like multiplier increases that you want so that we can like figure out if that's like an adequate or blah, 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 blah. Like CN players, like the top comment pretty much disregarded this whole thing, and they're saying like none of these things actually will fix her like as a core unit. And because right now CM players actually a lot of the time stand on both sides of the picture, if that makes sense, meaning that they're also thinking from HoYoverse's perspective, right? So let's say, okay, sure, this fixes maybe will make Dehya a better character, but how does this like fit into HoYoverse's agenda in, let's say, fleshing out a new type of pyro characters, right? Or would this just turn her into a more vaporized character or whatnot? CN seemed to be very on board as well with the whole like new line of pyro character thought. I've seen more and more discussions of it popping up recently, so I think it's happening. Now, moving on to the next one is, my theory is that with how strong Hu Tao and Xiangling are, the only next strong Pyro character will be the Pyro Archon. Having said that, I'm still disappointed with the state of Dehya, since I hope she would be a good good version character, but that role is probably also reserved for some Natlan character. So oh well. I think I came across one person who was like going along this thought. I don't remember if it, like, I've been reading a lot of forums. I like, sometimes you guys know when you read so much of this stuff, I don't remember if it was an EN comment, like a global EN comment, or a CN comment who said it, but I did come across a comment who also was talking about this stuff, like, just forget about having strong pyro characters until we get to Natlan, right? And it kind of brings me back to my point earlier. It's like, what the hell is the point of Natlan if you guys already finished summoning for all your pyro characters? All your core pyro units are already in hand. You got your Xiangling, you got your Dehya, you maybe get another pyro character between now and Natlan, and then you're done, right? And then you pull the pyro archon and you're just done. Why? Like, you know, like, you don't really leave Hoyoverse with much room to work with, right? So of course it would make sense for Hoyoverse, especially look at Dehya now. I feel like they're testing with Dehya. Okay, remember Xinyan, remember Toma, and now Dehya. These three characters actually have a lot in common if you guys think about it. Like, no, really think about it. Xinyan, Toma, and Dehya, they kind of feel like a very, like, barely linear progression. A lot of people would meme saying like with Xinyan is better than Dehya as a mono carry, like pyro carry, and I agree with that. That's, you know, that's okay. But what if I tell you that Dehya was never designed to be a mono pyro carry, right? Then, you know, it's like I'm saying like Xingqiu deals more damage than Kokomi, right? Or something like that. But Kokomi was never designed to deal damage, right? So you guys have to understand functionality of these characters can like really change how they are perceived and played and utilized. So this is what I'm saying, that I'm okay. Whenever I say this, people keep thinking I'm trying to justify Dehya. I'm not trying to justify Dehya. I'm simply saying that Hoyoverse tried to push her in a different direction, and they likely failed, which only time would tell. But right now, it seems like they're still using Dehya to test some sort of mixed scaling, like reaction system. They would, in Hoyoverse's case, they would much rather undershoot than overshoot. Undershooting, you'll get community backlash. You'll get like people hating on you for a little bit. You got some posts talk about you. You maybe lose a little bit of faith and trust from a portion of the community. But that is a small price to pay, in like, as opposed to the contrary if you overshoot. Imagine if Dehya came out and she pretty much is like Xiangling but on crack. Imagine if Dehya's existence in the game was like what Yelan was to Xingqiu. So now we have a pyro version of Yelan. That's overshooting. If they overshot this, there is no coming back from this. They will be, like, I'm telling you guys right now, if they made Dehya too strong, we're not just talking millions, we're talking tens of millions of dollars. Tens of millions in potential sales just gone down the drain in the gutter, because because right now it's a slow patch, first and foremost, so people have no problems dumping some primos now. There's no issues in wasting a couple of primo gems here to pull potentially strong and powerful characters, right? I don't know what's coming next patch, but if you waste a lot of primos now and get like a Yelan tier character, I think you'd be okay. For example, next patch Baizhu comes out, but who cares? Baizhu, let's say, is just like a Dendro version of, you know, like, I don't know, Kokomi. For example, Dendro version of Kokomi is still a really strong character, but you wouldn't really care if you had, like, you know, an upgraded Xiangling in your hands, right? So that's what I'm talking about. The risk of making a pyro character too strong means that you have little room to wiggle around in future pyro character releases in the same category. So Hoyoverse was much more willing to take a gamble of making a weaker pyro character as opposed to a stronger pyro character. And I do have to go back to the point where that her being on a standard banner may have been like a last minute decision. I don't disagree with that. I think that's a very valid decision. When we say last minute, I'm not saying like a day before the live stream. I'm saying like maybe even during the beta, they were still deciding whether or not to make adjustments to Dehya to make her a limited character, or just keep her as she is, or maybe even... I think the final decision was made when they decided to nerf her Constellation 1. If you guys remember, there was news of changes in the beta, and then they, instead of buffing Dehya, they tuned down the numbers in her C1. I think that was the very moment Dehya was solidified as being a standard banner character. We just didn't get the news of it until a little later. But from that moment onwards, she was basically a throwaway standard banner character for Hoyoverse. I think that was the moment. I think prior to that, Hoyoverse was willing, depending on certain like factors, they were willing maybe to make her slightly stronger and gear her more towards like a mid tier to low tier limited character. So think think Albedo, maybe like somewhere around Albedo, maybe a little better here and there. I think they were okay with doing that, but something happened which caused Hoyoverse to be like, you know what, just make her a standard banner character, right? Final decision, standard banner character, nerf her C1, right? Make her a little weaker, keep her as she is, I guess, and then nerf her C1, and we'll announce her as a standard banner character, and we'll move on, right? They're not willing to take that risk. I think that's what happened, in my opinion. That's what I think happened. Marcus Bola says, you can't get a free crowd character when you start Genshin right before Kaya. Only Hydro, Dendro, and Pyro and Electro they give out. You mean like a strong one? Skinhead Larry. That name. I'm just gonna call you Larry. How's that? They know she has a weak kit. They decided to nerf her even more. They absolutely knew what they were doing and specifically intended for her to be a weaker character. Yeah, I think making her overly weak means that they can also gauge the community's response at and demand for a strong Pyro character. I think Hoyoverse's idea of strong may be a little different from like the average player's idea. And I keep going back to this point, and I think CN hasn't talked about this yet, but I'm sure they'll eventually pick it up, because with the release of Dehya, you guys can see that Hoyoverse is trying very hard to make sure she doesn't work with like the current available Vaporize combos, right? So think Yelan, think Xingqiu, all these great Vaporize, like potentially Vaporize combos that you could have used with her had her burst been counted as like a normal attack, right? Let's say if her burst just infused her fist into like these pyro whatever, like strikes, and then you can left click and it counts as auto attacks, and Xingqiu and Yelan can synergize with that. That would have been great. Hoyoverse knew that, but they were very purposeful in making sure that did not happen, right? So I think it's very obvious at this point that they're trying to make different Pyro characters that don't vaporize. Pyro that doesn't vape, and Pyro that doesn't melt. I mean, it's very difficult to say Pyro that doesn't melt. I'm really curious how they're going to make Pyro characters that are melt focused without characters like Xiangling or other vaporized Pyro units who can just be a better melt like Pyro unit. But I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll figure it out. So let's take a look at more of these comments. I just want to put this out there. If Hoyoverse does this and no one says anything, it sets a precedent for them to do it again. That's why it's important to fight for Dehya. It's to prevent the same thing from happening to future characters. So tell them through feedback, customer service complaints, etc., that it's not okay to release a character in this state. I don't think, like, if you guys want CN to like stand with you guys and fight on this, it is tough. It is incredibly tough, because CN is kind of like, CN as a community has been beaten down so bad by these companies over like a decade of poor monetization decisions, like milking the players to the point where they've lost their will to fight, I know it's like it's kind of sad to say this. There are voices there that are willing to speak up, but they no longer have the collective spirit to fight this. They've been indoctrinated, they've been like brainwashed, they've been just kind of beaten down over like such a long time by these mega corporations, and they start to see other companies that they used to respect slowly turn towards these monetization models, to the point where I think even among players, like the problem is not with the companies. You guys have to understand this first. The problem is not with the companies, but actually within the players. Now let me explain this. Because we have players, right? Get this. We have players like Tony2, like Dehya, like I Win to Lose Gaming. I'm just using them because I know they do this, but there are other players that are non-content creators who are continuously wailing for C6 R5 characters regardless of their power level, right? Either it's to showcase, to make videos, to make content, or to just kind of collect characters because they can. Let's say they make like $300,000-$400,000 a month, whatever. Like they're a big shot, where they got daddy's money, they've swiped their mom's credit card. You know, they rob banks for a living. Who the hell cares how they get their money? But they can do it. They can afford it, and they do it. They don't care whether the character is strong or bad. They play it. It's like getting a new shiny toy and they toss it out. It's because of this type of culture and these type of players that exist that companies have worked out mathematically. It's more profitable to go after these players, even if let's say 0.5% of your player base are consisted of these players. They likely pay for a huge bulk of the company's revenue. So all in all, it's because there are these type of players that have these kind of spending tendencies that the gaming companies, of course, will gear their efforts towards milking the ever-living daylights out of these players. Does that make sense? Right? It's because they know these players are willing to spend in this manner that they will design games like this. Do you guys think they would do this if nobody's buying these characters? Of course, they're doing something. There's always a reason for them to do something. We call them greedy, but that's because they're greedy for the available market. They're greedy for the amount of money that's being left on the table if they choose to not be greedy. They're greedy because they know that's like they can get away with it. They know that that's like accepted within the general community. They know that's like it's literally people want to shove money in their pockets. Why shouldn't they take it? Right? Think about it. Think about it like that. So a lot of these issues are like, and I remember, was it Asmongold who read a Reddit post of a game designer from Korea who is an honest developer. He's a game dev, and he says he used to believe that making a good game that has like no monetization is what the players wanted. He believed that. I don't know if you guys ever seen this interview. It's like I was watching Asmongold read the Reddit post. It's like, so I'm not making this stuff up. You guys can go check Asmongold if you want to like fact check me. But this is a legitimate thing for a Korean developer, which he learned the hard way, that making a good game with no monetization and like it just requires hard work and dedication, it doesn't sell. It doesn't sell, right? The game doesn't sell, and he ended up like, and then like, was it his superior or something, like someone who had more time in the development industry, like the game dev industry, was telling him like, what, like you're stupid for doing that. It'll never work because the people who pay your salary don't want this. The people who pay you don't want, like, there are people who are more than willing to give you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you are not giving them any way to give it to you, right? So at the end of the day, this developer says in the Reddit post, saying like, it's not our fault, right? There are good devs out there who want to make good games for you guys, but nobody plays these games. These games just die on arrival. Why? Because nobody's here to fund these games, right? Like these games, for example, they charge you, or like, God forbid, they're free to play, but usually these titles, they have to charge a sum of money for you to first purchase them, then play them. Nobody's buying these games. And people who buy these games, like the whales who buy this game, play it for some time, and then they just leave. Because like, oh, I can't whale my way through it. Like, what the hell's the point? I can't crush these noobs with my wallet. What's the point? So what ends up happening is these games just die. These games just like get eviscerated, atomized, like just devoured by these other titles that are whale and like whale friendly games. So at the end of the day, you just have a lot of game devs. I mean, sure, you guys can say like, oh, but look at Minecraft, like look at all these other games, they can survive, they can become huge titles. Yeah, but how many Minecrafts are there? Right, we're talking like one in like tens of hundreds of thousands of games that are developed. Right, that's why vast majority of the games, especially Eastern games, that's a very competitive market over there. Most of them are very heavily monetized, even if they're not like, even if they're PvP focused games, and developers tries their best to kind of not make it too pay to win. It's very difficult. Like look at Japan, look at like the Dragon Ball games, look at the One Piece games, like the anime based games. They're just pay to win cash grabs because they already have the popularity of the titles. That, like, for example, Seven Deadly Sins, right? Bleach, Brave Souls, and all that stuff. Naruto, whatever games they have, it's all pay to win because they're carried by the popularity of the title, of the IP. So it's not that I disagree with what this comment is saying. I agree, but I'm just saying when it comes from the CN perspective, you can forget about CN fighting with you on this because I really, from like all the posts I've seen, I really don't think they have the fighting spirit still left in them to oppose the mega corporations. And even if the very few that do, like how do you guys think, let's say if you're a free-to-play player and you decide to stop playing, do you think HoYoverse like is gonna cry a river over like a mass wave of free-to-play players suddenly stop playing? You guys were always just here to make up the numbers. I don't want to say this making it sound derogatory, but free-to-play players are truly here just to fill the numbers for the pay-to-win players. Right? And you guys are, oh, pay-to-win. What is there to pay-to-win in Genshin? I mean, the fact that you have C6R5, like, win doesn't have to be dominating other people. Sometimes you could just feel superior. Right? Just feel superior. You win over the game. You win over the Hilichurls. You crush them. You blink and they die. Right? Think about like these overpowered MC stories, like manhwas. Think what's that one? The guy who summons shadow monsters. The manhwa, the Korean manhwa. Solo leveling. Think solo leveling. Why is manhwa like solo leveling so popular? Why do people like it? Is it not because the guy is so freaking utterly busted beyond human comprehension that he can look at you one way and you die? Right? That's winning. You win. So what is wrong with people wanting to see C6R5 in a single player game when they just look at the mobs and they die? Right? So trust me, I would love, let's say Twanto, let's say if these bigger creators or multiple bigger creators would jump on together to make a movement to change something, I would be more than happy to join their movement and support this. But don't, like, it's pointless for me to sit here and try to start something with my side. I'm not saying we don't matter, right? You watching this live stream, you matter. Of course you do. Your voices matter, your thoughts matter, and I respect them, but at the same time, let's be realistic here. Are we really going to accomplish anything with our current size? No, but I have no problems lending my voice to a good cause, a movement that is started by somebody who can actually move mountains. Okay? We're here like kicking pebbles on the ground, and Twanto, Anthony Chen, these bigger creators, they have power to move mountains. Yet, you know, like they don't care about this. Like they're much more like free and casual players. So until a collective movement starts where we can also help them, like sure, maybe our strength isn't going to rival theirs, but the fact that we are there helping, trying our best to push for change, I'm all for it. But don't expect me to start it because I'm just gonna get kicked to the curb. People are gonna call me like, oh, Walrus, you're just farming clout. Like, I guess I am. Yeah, you already know it. So Dreamlink says you already know it ain't happening. Yeah, it's not happening, because why should somebody in the position of Tuanto Anthony Chen, who's doing so well in this community, fight against the very corporation who gave them this success, right? Doesn't make sense. That's why never gonna happen, people. This is very wishful thinking, very positive thinking, I would say, but unfortunately it will never happen. She's a half-baked character with a great design. It really feels like MiHoYo tried to see if people prefer looks over performance, if they can get away with just not giving a single F about making a good kit, and we still don't have a standard Geo unit. Right, so disregarding the Geo unit thing, because I actually haven't seen CN players talk about it, when it comes to this, CN players, okay, we gotta first talk about CN players and how much they actually like Dehya. It's a myth. It's a myth and false information at this point to say that CN players don't like Dehya, or that CN players hate Dehya because she's dark skinned. It's very like antagonistic of people to say that, because CN players, there's actually a huge following for CN players, and a lot of them are really into Dehya. I remember there was like this donation pool that they started in the name of Dehya and Genshin Impact. Now that may just be a publicity stunt, I don't know, but I don't see any other unit was capable of affecting things to this degree. There is certainly a lot of positivity going towards Dehya. All right, so let's not kid ourselves here in thinking that HoYoverse is out to, let's say, you know, I don't know a good word to put it. I don't want to come off as, you know, being insensitive, but let's not think HoYoverse is here to devalue dark skinned characters, because that's not the case. At least we don't have any proof. But it's also true that many dark-skinned characters in Genshin Impact has received weaker kits in comparison to other, you know, fair-skinned units, right? Like Sino, Dehya, Jinyan, these are all examples. Kaya is also kind of fairly weak, but also we have other Conrians, such as Joker, who's like the leader of well, not the leader, but the first harbinger in the whole Shisnaya line of things, like the harbinger stuff. So he's like a big badass who's also a dark skinned character, like what's going on here. So it's not like they're in, and it's not like they're in less positions of power as well. So it really doesn't make sense. It doesn't hold its own, it can't really stand on a leg. Oh, Pierre, my camera froze again, bro. I swear it's the Elgato thing, man. Why does it keep doing this? Okay, so from CN's perspective, I've never ever seen a single post in CN that talks and says like, oh, I hate her because it's a dark skinned character, right? Because a lot of people claim that CN is racist. I don't think, like, there's a clear difference between ignorance and like a malicious intent, right? I think racism is much more of a malicious, foul, like it comes from negative emotions, okay? So when you guys say CN or HoYoverse, it's racist, you have to be very careful what you're saying. You're saying that they are equipped with ill intentions to belittle or to harm, you know, a certain racial type, right? But from my perspective, from CN's perspective, they simply don't know. It's ignorant. Yes, they could educate themselves, but they don't know. At least the players, the community, they look at these characters, they say, and what I've seen a lot of people say about Dehya is that Dehya is a beautiful woman. Like they look at her and she's like, she's attractive. Like she's a great character, right? She looks very powerful with how she's designed. Great design, great character. And some of them are actually upset that she's not good, right? So saying Hoyoverse is racist, saying CN is racist, I think it's just a very easy way to cop out of actually having a meaningful discussion as to how these, like, how we may have a cultural difference here. Right? So there are people who are demanding for change in CN. For example, the post that I highlighted in the video here, this post exists because there are people in CN who resonate with our message. They're not posting this here to make fun of us. They're posting this here as like, hey, the EM players are demanding change. What do you guys think about these the changes that they presented? They're trying to have a discussion just like we are. So remember, like, we have more in similarity with CN than differences. Nobody wants crappy characters in the game. We're all working towards a similar goal. It's just maybe our methods are slightly different. Maybe, you know, what we value are slightly different. But don't think for a second that, like, most people in CN is out to get these, like, dark-skinned characters, or Hoyoverse has a special agenda. Maybe they do, but it's certainly not a racially motivated one. Let's see. So we just looked at this one. Okay, so this one, now I'd argue about Zhongli is not simply because he's an Archon. Let's say Zhongli isn't from Liyue, but Sumeru or Inazuma or any place. Clearly, instead, the outbreak won't be as big as if he's from Liyue, because CN think Liyue respects their homeland or cultures, and Zhongli, as an Archon of Liyue, being weak implies that their homeland is also weak, which is just not acceptable for them. Unfortunately for MiHoYo, Global was very upset as well, but the reason for Global is simply because he's an Archon. Okay, so actually this is a very interesting discussion, because during when I was reading the NGA stuff, it actually did come up. They talk about Yaimiko, they talked about Kokomi, they talked about Zhongli. So these three, I saw a post talking about all of these, and the general consensus was that when Zhongli, at least they believe, when Zhongli first came out, a lot of people, like, were extremely upset, because yes, you're right, because he is a representation of China. There are people who were like, there were people who were extremely passionate about that. Yes, that is correct. At the same time, there was also a group of people who simply wanted a strong character, and they said it's like, because they're going off of lore, because Hoyoverse, when they first released the game, they were like blowing it up, like, oh my god, you know, we're not going to do collabs, we're not going to, like, you know, derail the character, like the pureness of the story. We're going to really focus on our world. We're going to develop this into a, like, great expansive adventure story, and we're going to, like, focus on quality. And then when it comes to releasing the Geo Archon, which is like a god, right? Like, it's an insane character. They're like, okay, let's see. And then he just fell flat on his face. And the player was like, what happened to, you know, like, focusing on the story, making sure, like, there's accurate representation, right? Like all this stuff. And they were saying, like, so why would you just make a god this weak? Like, why is this god not even better than, you know, certain 4-star characters? Like, none of this is making sense, right? Like, you're kind of, like, all over the place, Hoyoverse. And then Hoyoverse, under pressure of many directions, had to cave into making changes for Zhongli. Because remember, Hoyoverse's goal at the time when Zhongli came out was to still attract newer players, people who are still on the sideline, not sure about Genshin. Hoyoverse wanted to make a statement showcasing people, hey, we're a good company, we care about our players, we're flexible as a development company, a game dev company, and it was more so a demonstration. How many people, through seeing Hoyoverse making changes to Zhongli, had a sigh of relief? It was like, at least they listened. Not many companies will be willing to, especially companies of Hoyoverse's size, will be willing to take a character, because the fact they took the character back, readjusted him, and then released him is basically admitting fault, right? Hoyoverse, basically what they did was they gave us a 90 degrees bow, said, we are sorry, let us fix this. They went back, fixed it, re-released the character, and that was it. In fact, I would say Hoyoverse, through that whole ordeal, earned a lot of brownie points from the community. Okay, they were trying, but now in retrospect, it makes sense, right? Because that decision was a business decision. It wasn't them actually wanting to, be a good dev company. They were just trying to ride off the success of Genshin while they were still at the center of people's attention. They wanted to demonstrate and at least fool us into thinking they were a company who is willing to listen. So then in the future, we will still hold on to the hopium belief. Even now, people are like, but they did it for Zhongli. They did it for Zhongli. Why can't they do it for... Right? Even now, people have that hopium belief because of that one move HoYoverse did way back, 2 years ago. It has such residual effects to the point where today, people are still hoping, being copium, thinking that it's going to happen. But since when has HoYoverse, really... I mean, the anniversary they did again, but you guys see how reluctant they were for the anniversary? HoYoverse by this, the first year anniversary, they were already we don't want to cave. We don't want to do this anymore. The Zhongli stunt was a PR stunt. That was it. We did a PR stunt. It's bought us so much time. It actually got more players coming to the game. We earned a lot of trust from our player base. Now we need to find ways to slowly abuse it. So by them, in the first year anniversary, having to give us more, they really did not want to do that. Right? They really did not want to do that. But because CN, EN, once again, people were just we were working as such a well-oiled machine on all fronts. HoYoverse had to cave and they were like, man, let's just give them a couple summons. Let's give them this wing package, right? We were supposed to sell with the music festival thing. Just give it to them for free. We're going to lose maybe a couple million at best. That package may have not even made them a couple million, maybe just a couple 100,000. I don't know who's gonna waste their money on that. But regardless, fast forward to nowadays, since the 1 year anniversary, HoYoverse has been doing nothing but abuse the trust of the player base. Abuse and abuse and abuse over and over and over again, to the point where nowadays we don't even know what's we don't even know what they're willing to do and not willing to do, right? I mean, for most of you who joined, or for most of you who's been through all the ups and downs of Genshin, you guys likely right now think of HoYoverse more so as an authoritarian developer position. They're not going to cave. They're not going to bend to our will. They're not going to listen. They're not going to do anything. Everything that they've shown us they were willing to do back in patch 1.0 all the way to 1.3 and 4, it's almost like they've turned a 180 on us. Oh, strong 4-star characters, forget about those, right? Those were a release only type of deal. The really great communications back and forth between the player base in the earlier months of the game, forget about that, right? Certain promises, we made bold promises of a guild system, right? Of all this stuff. I remember they promised, talked about it. Not, they didn't promise. They talked about a guild system. They talked about a housing system. They talked about yeah, forget about that. Guild systems, nah, we don't want it. We don't want you guys to connect it with each other, right? Because if you guys get to spend time with each other, you guys can, maybe form a bond, and when you have a bond, it's much easier for you guys to uprise and revolt. Yeah, we're not gonna need that. We're gonna need you guys to kind of stay separated and apart from each other. Just argue about your waifus, Feels bad, but China, in CN, people are very aware that. I'm gonna say they're really aware, but when it comes to the issue of Zhongli, they are very understanding that it's more so a PR move, and that from that point onwards, HoYoverse has been very reluctant to engage with the player base. The society is not just a functional in this stage; she is full of bugs and deserves better. Surprisingly, CN also is talking about how buggy she is, especially her burst skill. So when it comes to her burst skill, it's just very dysfunctional at times. There's many ways that you can accidentally cancel it, believe it or not, which is hilarious because at this point, what doesn't cancel Dehya's burst skill? I don't know. It's just yeah, like CN has also been harping on Hoyoverse about the bugs. I don't know if Hoyoverse will ever fix the bugs. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly next patch they just came out with the new patch and then suddenly they say, oh yeah, we fixed some bugs where Dehya's burst skill got cancelled when she ran into obstacles for something. I wouldn't like it wouldn't be worthwhile, like it wouldn't even be worthwhile for them to mention it. They'll just like throw it into the patch and call it a day. But Nintendo Switch, not Wii. Yeah, they were talking about the game coming to Nintendo Switch. So I was just like, oh, okay. Okay. Mm. What else? What else? What else? A lot of these comments, there were no comments made in CN. They don't even have to rework your entire kit or fix the Xingqiu Yelan Beidou interactions, since that would take a lot of effort programming and testing, and they are probably behind schedule for other things. But just some number changes. Less energy cost under burst, I think that would be pretty good, and less CD. Bigger damage multipliers on it, make her interruption resist last 20 seconds. That would be pretty cool. That's it. Don't even need to test it that much. It's just number changes. Wouldn't take nearly as much effort as a kit rework. It would take effort though, but they could do it simply to send a love letter to their customers. Come on, they rarely do that. We deserve it. They rarely do that. Yeah, they almost never do that. They almost never do that. So here, that would go miles ahead in restoring the faith that a lot of customers had lost in them in the past year. So you see, this is the point I was talking about. All right, Hoyoverse because this is what I keep saying. Over the last year or so, maybe even more so, year and a half, Hoyoverse has been more so farming the trust that they've gained from us. Like a freaking trust farm, they've been just farming us. Because the first they gave us something to earn that trust, and then from then on they just started farming the ever-living daylights out of it. And till this day, a lot of players actually don't have a lot of faith in them anymore. But there's still a group of us who are sitting there being like, but they did rework Zhongli, so you never know, it could happen again. Really highly doubt it. Really highly doubt it. Who knows? Maybe they even made Zhongli bad. Like, this is getting really into conspiracy territory, but they may have purposely made Zhongli bad, expecting an uprising, and then reworking Zhongli just so they can do that whole like maneuver, being like, oh look, we're a great gaming company who's willing to make changes according to player demands. Who knows? Sending a leveler in terms of a small Dehya buff would be a great start, though. It would take a small effort, but the return is bigger. I think this person has a point. But at the same time, it's just like, I still haven't been able to, I really haven't been able to wrap my head around why they make Dehya so bad. Because even as a standard banner character, having her being at least functional, or at least having a functional kit, will only benefit Hoyoverse. What is the purpose? Why make a bad character just to have players backlash you? Why? I haven't even been able to answer this character. I haven't even been able to answer this question. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You're just gonna get pure hate. I don't know. I really don't know. This seems like a net loss. There's nothing to gain from this. Right? They don't gain anything. So here it says, LOL, or they can just simply toss it into the standard banner and be done with it. Wait, what? They already did? Damn. Restoring the faith, a lot comes laws in the past here. What faith, and is it mean anything? When the players still pump money into the game like crazy, have you seen the many people who complain about Dehya, yet still end it with, I still pull for her though? This man has got a point. Like, this man is spitting facts. Or even C4R5 her. I have seen that quite a bit. And the revenue report of Dehya Sino banner on Genshin Lab, the first day already made around 3.8 to 3.9 million for CN on iOS. And that was in the top 10 banner sales of the first day. Of course, as time goes by, it falls down, but still made good money. At day 78, it already is around $9 million. Unfortunately, many players don't know the basic concept of vote with your money. Many people love and are very good at complaining about anything and everything, but then there is no action to back up their complaints. They will run right back after complaining. So what is the weight and value of those complaints in the first place? And that's why the game dev knows they can walk all over the community and still get away with tons of money. Why would they fix anything or send a love letter when there is no consequences they have to face otherwise? Very well put. And this is the thing I've been trying to echo, right? Actually, one moment here. I don't have Dehya. I didn't poll her. I'm not wasting my money on her. I'm voting with my money. But unfortunately, I just feel like if you like her, you like her. If you want to pull her, you pull her. Especially that report is from CN. It's a shame, right? It's a shame. We all thought maybe we were brothers in arm here, but in actuality, people will say one thing and then they'll turn around and go pull for the character. So let's just pause and think about this from HoYoverse's perspective for a second. If you were HoYoverse, what would you do? Oh, these people are complaining, but hold up a minute. We're still making the same amount of money regardless. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Wow. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter, right? Yeah, like even people who are in this comment section right now, even you guys, there's a number of you guys who likely really complain about this character and is unhappy with how her kit ended up, but how many of you guys ended up pulling for her regardless, right? Because of FOMO, you know, if you don't pull her, she likely won't ever get a rerun, and then you're stuck without this character, even though you really enjoy her personality. So you're actually at odds with yourself. There's an emotional side of you and there's a logical side of you, and it's at odds with you. The logical side of you is like, this is such a bad character, right? And there's very little synergies I can have with this character with my other ones. However, the emotional side of you, which HoYoverse targets sometimes one, sometimes the other, sometimes they target both, right? But right now, the emotional side of you versus the logical side of you is constantly waging war with each other when it comes to whether or not Dehya is a good character to pull. And most often than not, the emotional side will win this argument. HoYoverse's goal, I think, if you guys think about it like this, HoYoverse's goal should have always been to get you guys emotionally attached enough to Dehya so that even if she was a bad character, you'd still pull for her. Now, here's another bit of conspiracy for you. Did they on purposely write her into the majority of the Sumerian Archon questline for the sole reason that they were going to gut her kit and sell a crap character to you guys and relying solely on your emotional connection with her through the Sumeru storyline? Now, if that were to be true, let's just say HoYoverse is living like 7 different parallel universes ahead of you guys and us as a community. And also that would disprove my theory in saying that she was decided to be a standard banner character only like in the beta. That means HoYoverse had planned for her to be a standard banner character over half a year ago when she was first teased, and they decided to make her a core character in the story so you guys will end up getting emotionally attached. That is manipulation at its finest. God damn, if that were to be true, I just have to get on my knees and give Dawei and HoYoverse crew a huge like, oh my goodness, you guys know the player base so damn well. I think if that were to be true, HoYoverse truly would know you even better than you yourself. I'm just saying, like I've said this in the past, is that like there's a good chance that a lot of these big marketing companies know your spending tendencies and habits more so than you yourself knows. But I don't know. That's pretty far out there, right? That's pretty far out there. I think the more logical thing to say is just Hoyoverse was like, oh damn, she sucks. Everybody hates her. Throw her on the standard banner character. You know, I think so at least. Yeah. Calvin's GA says maybe, but that also doesn't have concrete. Yeah, well, there's no way we'll have evidence for that unless like Dawei's like internal DMs with his like executive officers somehow gets leaked, right? Oh, I don't know. Sarah Diaz says, sincerely, was there a really good pyro character after Hu Tao? I guess Yoimiya mains just don't exist, I guess, at least not for Hu Tao players. If Hoyoverse wants so hard to avoid power creep, they should go with side grades. At this point, we'll be playing with Xiangling and Bennett until 5.x with the release of Pyro Archon. Yeah, and this is actually something that CN talks about quite often, is that, you know, Xiangling Bennett are such staples in a lot of meta team comps that they don't even see the potential of anything more powerful coming along. Here's the thing, like, how can you make another Xiangling? Like, think about this for a second. Imagine a 5-star Xiangling. Right? Just imagine that for a second. What that would do to the game state. It's just like, it kind of overshoots everything. And Xiangling is already such a potent character, so meaning a 5-star Xiangling would have at minimum just as much as power application for just as long, right? And are you going to say it's the same damage? Is everything just going to be copy and paste? So it's like very hard to design a 5-star version of Xiangling, at least currently, right? Like, so maybe Hoyoverse wants to slowly push us towards in that direction. So when that we get to Natlin, that could be a possibility. They made a 5-star Xingqiu. Yeah, they did. And they're still paying for it till this day with their potential revenue gains. You know what I mean? Yelan is too strong. Especially high constellation Yelan is too strong. They did too much. They did too much with, like, you guys cannot complain. Like, I mean, you guys cannot convince me that Yelan's kit and constellations are not heavily inflated for no reason whatsoever. Yelan has no business being that strong at C6. I think we should shut off at least 30% of her power at C6 and she'll fall in line with some other characters. It's not normal. Like that, it's like, sure, like you guys could say like, well, Walrus, you know, C6s are supposed to be over the top and dramatic and whatever the hell. Who cares if a C6 is better than another C6 because it doesn't concern us, the players. But you have to understand, we're talking about Hoyoverse right now. When you design a C6 character so over the top to the point where she herself is outputting more damage than entire hyper carry teams combined into one, you have an issue. You have a big issue. You have a problem on your hand that you have to answer this. Whereas like, because remember when I said Hoyoverse's goal at most decisions they have to make is how are they going to turn a free-to-play player into a low spender, like a well-can-only player. They don't want a free-to-play to turn into a Leviathan. It's a step-by-step thing. They're constantly trying to push you guys from one tier of spending to the next, right? Have you guys ever been at a position where, oh no, I'm just missing, like I'm guaranteed like this character that I've been waiting for 6 months, and if I just spend $5, if I just spend $5, I get this character. Hell, if I spend $1, I can get this character. They're going away in 30 minutes. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? They constantly want those scenarios to happen to people. So then it's like, oh, okay, just this once. I'll spend $1. I'll spend $5. Oh, I'm gonna, bam. That's done, right? That's done. They constantly want to put you guys into these positions. It's the same thing. If you just move a tier up, like, oh my god, I really want like my Hu Tao C1. I'm so close to Hu Tao C1. Oh, just $20. If I spend $20, I get her. She's going away in an hour. I farmed everything. I spent the last week farming for every possible primo gems. I don't have enough. No. What should I do? Just $20 and I guarantee my bam. That's done. And just slowly moving up. But what happens? Think about it, right? Once you get to the higher tier of spenders, let's say a whale player who can spend maybe $400-500 every single month. They're okay spending that every month. What if a whale player decided, I'm just gonna get C6 Yelan and I'm gonna stop whaling? Never again, period. I'm done. I'll get C6 Yelan and I go from spending $500 a month to $5 a month. Like, oh, I don't need any more. I'm done. I have a character that is so complete and perfect and strong that her at C6 is just completely, utterly, like, destroying she is a one-man army. Okay? Yelan C6 is a one-man army. Think like Zhao C6. Zhao C6 still would prefer teammates. Zhao C6, like, you could say he's a one-man army, but there are certain scenarios that it could... Yelan C6 completely, utterly destroys everything in the game, with the exception to hydro-immune characters. Right? That's the only way to counter C6 Yelan is hydro-immunity. But by the same... but the thing is, you guys have to understand, that same logic counters every other character as well. So it's not just a Yelan problem. So Yelan destroys every bit of content in the game and is only countered by hydro immunity, whereas other characters struggles to do that exact same thing. You can say, oh, what about C6 Raiden? C6 Raiden, without her teammates to the funnel resolve for her burst skill, cannot one-shot and just clear the game by herself. She cannot, because she has no resolve. Right? And part of her kit is just wasted. It's like, oh, you're not going to supercharge the rest of your team? Right, C6 Nahida, C6 Zhongli, right? Like, what character, like C6 Ganyu, even at times may get one shot, right? Yelan has the mobility, has a self-sustain, not sustain in terms of health, but like in terms of particles to use her burst skill, and she's hydro. Oh my god, this character is just so overtuned, and that's why for HoYoverse, Yelan will lose the money. I'm just telling you guys straight up right now. You guys think Yelan is such a great, like, yes, Yelan is great for the player base, for people who's willing to over time invest into this character, but over time, the big top spenders will spend less money because they have characters such as HoYoverse want as little characters like C6 Yelan as possible, because these bigger spenders then will continue to spend monthly. Okay, let's do this, do that, let's get these new characters to synergize. Because when you have a game that you've designed to be played with 4 characters, and then you have one character doing the job of 4 characters, you literally just pull one character, then you save the money of the other 4. Right? It's like you're supposed to be playing this game with 4 characters, and HoYoverse make it like very important. Like, oh, you got to put these synergies and all these characters that bounce off. Like, Yelan doesn't want or need teammates at C6. I mean, you got to hand it to HoYoverse. It's very accurate to her lore depiction, in that she functions as like a one-woman team, and she has like all this intel, but for when she's operating, she is always by herself. So like, goddamn, like HoYoverse, you really nailed that one. But your bank account will suffer in the long run with Yelan. They're not gonna make a character like Yelan. I think the last C6 character that was that kind of busted and weirdly powerful, I want to say Ito, but I think Ito wasn't really that over the top. Like, I mean, yeah, he was strong, but Ito, they even made Goro to go along with him and all that stuff. So it's like, they still kind of made it work synergy wise, and they lined their pockets pretty well with people who summon Ito. But I want to say Ganyu is like maybe Ayaka, maybe Ganyu, or Shinhe. I don't know. No, Shinhe probably not, but that's a C12. C12 was such a great monetary thing for HoYoverse that I bet they wanted to recreate that same scenario. Right. So yeah, I think maybe Ganyu C6 was just kind of overloaded a little bit, right? The way Ganyu C6 works is kind of ridiculous. C6 Ganyu is a huge whale bait. Yeah, C6 Ganyu was a huge whale bait, and actually till this day, I think C6 Ganyu is one of the more utilized speedrun characters. It has the precision, actually, if you guys think about it. E into a charge attack, then if you aim it right, it could be AoE. I mean, it's an AoE attack regardless, but if you aim it right, even with multiple waves of monsters, you're not reliant on like a skill cooldown. It's just your charge attack, right? As long as you have elemental skills, you can always instantly shoot out that arrow, which is great. But yeah. Okay, I mean, at this point, I think we've seen enough of these comments. There were some that were more accusational, but I think we're not going to really focus on those. Apart from the fact, if you guys want, like, I actually, from the feedback, I've seen that you guys actually really do enjoy me covering CN forums and stuff and seeing what CN people have to say. So maybe I'll turn this into like a more like a bi-weekly thing. Maybe you guys don't need updates every week, or every time a topic discussion come up, I'll try my best to make a video talking about it and addressing it, okay, from the CN perspective. Now let's talk a little bit about the video I released today. The US president's video. Now, I did not expect that video to reach 1,000 likes in one day. I said in the video that I would promise you guys to make another if this video reached 1,000 likes. You know, in hindsight, maybe I should have said 2,000 likes. God damn it. Oh man, I actually, you know how I even decided to make this video? I actually had another video prepared, but then I was on YouTube and I came across another one of these videos for like a One Piece video. And I saw them debating about One Piece and I was just like, God, like that was hilarious. And I was like, I want to watch more of this stuff. I know it's not real, but you know, it was a great way to filter out the, like, it's a great way to filter out the, like the community's inputs and just throw it in, like put it in the words of Donald Trump and Obama and like Biden. It was just like such a juxtaposition of character, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, do they have anybody, like, do they have this for Genshin, right? Like, imagine Trump arguing Genshin meta and stuff like that with Biden. Like, I was like, that would be hilarious, would it not? So then I was like doing research into it, and actually there were other people who were making these videos, and I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, that's so much fun. And actually I stopped making my video and I just kind of shelved it, and I started working on this. Oh, how do they do it? The AI, and then I started writing the script. I still have the script open if you guys look here. Yeah, so for people who were asking, like, where did the AI write the script? No, I wrote the script. I wrote the script. And maybe you guys can tell it was a bit rushed, but I literally wrote this like in like two hours or so, like that. So, but it was hilarious. I was like giggling here and there. I was like, here's a script that I wrote. It's like President Debate Genshin, right? Like, so I was just like, and you guys remember like that is exactly, like, so D is for Donald, O is for Obama, Joe is for Joe Biden. So I was like writing the script and trying to see like how they, like, I was watching, because I actually don't know much about them, so I started watching like president, like their speeches, and I was like seeing like, okay, how Donald Trump likes to talk. So like, and I had to make sure all this stuff it was like, it was a lot of fun. I'll say that much. It was a ton of fun making it. I still giggle because I made them say some weird stuff here and there. But like, as you guys can see, it's like 1.3 thousand million dumbass, right? Like stuff like that. It's just these snarky remarks, because I realized Donald likes to make like very sharp jabs at people. Like he doesn't say much, but he says a lot in just like one phrase. So like I tried my best to make Donald embody that aspect of him, but keep it in Genshin and stuff like that, and just have like quick jabs. But yeah, if you guys enjoy it, dude, look at this script. Look at this. It's like a, how do I count the words for this? How many words did I type? I don't know, but it's like a 4-page dialogue. It was a 4-page dialogue. It was a bit rushed, I do admit. Like when even when I was editing it, maybe I was like, okay, maybe certain interactions could have been a little better. Maybe certain conversations could have flowed into other ones a little better. But yeah, I'm gonna make another one for you guys. I'm gonna make another one for you guys and hope that today I can have conversations flow a little better. I mean, since I have you guys in chat, maybe we can. What do you guys want to see them talk about? What do you guys like? Not detail wise, like, but the general like flow of topics. I'll try to fit as many of the topics you want to see discussed, and of course I have to go do research because I have to be accurate to a certain community. Because as you guys can tell, I'm trying to embody certain communities within the Genshin Impact. So, what are some topics you guys want them to discuss? Okay, and then we'll maybe put it to a vote, and then the top 4, I'll make sure to include it. Talk about leaks, good or bad. Oh, that's a good one actually. Talking about leaks. Okay. Are leaks a necessary evil in Genshin? Right. Okay. So that's one topic. Jason says philosophy. What do you mean philosophy? Like because it has to stay like pertain to Genshin. Character personality, we did kind of touch that. You guys can see like I kind of gave Trump this like this waifu simp kind of role, whereas I think some people in the comments were saying like Trump seems more like the meta slave, whereas Biden would seem more like the kind of simp or something. I think I got Obama pretty well. I think Obama being the mediator, like, because I kept having Donald and Joe going at each other, and I oftentimes would forget about Obama, so I just throw him in there for being like, oh, okay. Obama said some kind of mediator remarks, and we move on to the next point. Casuals versus hardcores. I mean, we kind of had that, right? Like the whole back and forth between the videos, they were kind of going back and forth. Character tier lists. Okay. Character tier lists. I'll have that. They're gonna touch on character tier lists today. They're gonna touch on Genshin Leaks character tier lists. Maybe we'll have 2 more. Casuals versus hardcores. Well, the thing is, that's like an overarching theme because Donald, I have him representing casuals, and then I have Joe representing hardcore. So that's like a running theme. I'll keep having that dynamic in there. Oh, anniversary. Yeah. So, Genshin anniversaries. That's a good one. Donald needs to be a Giga Wheel. Yeah, he is a Giga Wheel. I have him spending an average of $3,000 to $4,000 a month in Genshin. Easily best characters were Trump, Chi-Chi, Eula, and Dehya. Yep, those are his favorites. The reason I have Trump really lean into Mondstadt is because I thought it had huge walls, you know. I don't know, because I was looking at Mondstadt and I was like, wait, which country would Trump really like fall in love with? Like, I think Trump would love Mondstadt for the giant walls. The whole thing is just a giant wall. Yeah, and I thought about Sumeru has a wall. Like, yeah, Sumeru also has a wall, but then but I don't know. It felt more like a mountains in Sumeru, but I thought like Obama being a Sino main would be interesting. I don't know. It was so rushed. Like, I'll see. I'll see if I could like make some minor tweaks. Oh, Archon. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who's the better Archon? Nice. Nice. I think Archon, I wanted to talk about that as well. What else? Let's see. Waifu versus meta. Yeah, yeah, we waifu vs meta. Make one of them poll for waifus only, with the others argue for the qualities of male characters. Oh my goodness, that would be hilarious. Wait, that could be really funny. Whereas like maybe Biden is kind of simping for like Ito abs, whereas like Donald is just like ripping Ito apart for having a terrible like physique and camera model. Yeah. We'll have the camera froze. Don't worry, we got this. Okay, let me we do this. Okay, there. So yeah. Male character model debate. Male character model debate. That's a huge one as well. Okay. What else? Maybe we'll have one more, and then I'll put some of these to votes, and then. Sophia M says the usage rate close to 0. Joke killed. Oh, yeah. I remember that one. I was like, oh, usage rate. Like, there has to be some sort of usage rate, like snarky remark, right? Because Eula, Chi-Chi, and Dehya are like almost not used. So, and I was like, usage rate. So now I was like, okay. I came up with, I don't know how it came. I was like, oh yeah. And I don't know. Maybe it was a little inappropriate, but I think for the moment, and like in terms of debate and in terms of how snarky and inappropriate Donald can be at times, Trump can be, I guess. That was like a okay. It barely passed. I was like, should I say that? Should I not say that? Should I say that? Should I not say that? Oh yeah. Omega T. Thank you. Okay, let's put some of these guys some of these into the poll. So the topics, what should the presidents debate next? All right, so so I'll first put in a couple, and then once I'll maybe give it like 5-10 minutes so you guys can vote, and then I will add a couple more later. So there's must contain between 1 and 35 characters. Okay. So you guys can vote on these first. I left out waifu versus meta and male character model. Can I start another poll? No, I have to close this one first. So go ahead, you guys, vote on this first. I'll maybe give it a couple minutes here, and then the lowest two, I think maybe will drop, and then we will then move on to the other topics, and I'll try to fit as much as I can. Maybe I mean, if I run out of material, I'll work on this. So to keep this on track. Walrus, are you American? No, I'm Canadian. Tech Virus, Walrus, maybe debate who is the bigger war criminal. Well, the thing is, I don't want to go. I want to keep it strictly Genshin. As much as that would be entertaining, maybe to as a form of content. I think. Well, I'm not laughing because that's funny. I'm laughing because Because wasn't there a joke about Joe Biden being a oh, what was that joke? I remember somebody was saying like Joe Biden was saying something like was it Joe Biden or someone else? It was like a president. It was like I can't remember, but it was hilarious. People were like ripping on these guys hard. So we got Genshin Anniversary, who's the better Archon? Are leaks a necessary evil? Character tier list. So character tier list is winning so far. And then we have waifu versus meta, male character model debate. Okay. Walrus, how about they debate over which element is the best in the game, like Hydro vs Anemo, or like Best in Slot Pyro, the worst in the game, or Geo? Okay, I can slide that in. I think that would be an interesting one because I think there are overarching topic and debates like character tier lists, right? Like we can have like different characters fitting in different tier lists and stuff. And or like we just kind of having debate the S tier, right? Like kind of giving them their input on the S tier characters in the game, and then we can have like a whole overarching thing talking about leaks and how important it is for players to be able to kind of prepare and look forward, even when HoYoverse doesn't present us with a roadmap. And then there's like subcategory the discussions like who's the better Archon, right? For example, stuff like that. Okay, so I'm gonna end this one. So we're gonna keep the first two, and then we're gonna add the then we're gonna have this. So the tier list and the leaks are definitely the things people really want to see. So I can write that in for sure. And if I run out of materials, then I can use the other topics, right? Let's see. So this is the last poll. These, and I'll kind of see the general votes between all 6 of these, and then I'll work them in maybe with a percentage rate to the video. This way actually helps me keep a clear mind of what to focus on, so I don't wander everywhere, and in terms the video conversations kind of go all over the place. It's to help me structure the videos too. It's my first time writing these kind of like complex 3-man dialogue scripts, even though I did learn some screenplay writing back in, you know, my days in school, and I learned a little bit about character design and stuff like that. It has been a while since I've exercised this part of my creative mind stuff, so it really helps that you guys are here to kind of keep me in line when it comes to the discussion. Warriors, how about they talk about their favorite city? Like Trump is the Inazuma, Joe is the Economia, and Biden is to Liyue. Yeah, actually, I was thinking about them talking about the geographic of Genshin and why they prefer certain, you know, places and stuff like that. And I think it also would have, like, for example, I'm not actually, you know what, I'm not gonna give it away because then it wouldn't be as funny when I write it. Like I can't share the discussion. I have a lot of like weird discussions that they could have, especially as I continue to build upon Trump, Obama, and Biden's characters. Waifu versus meta is too predictable, but it's such a hotly debated like topic within Genshin Impact though. Like waifu versus meta is so, it's like a tale as old as time. It's like, so I'll do my best. I'll do my best to kind of balance things out. I also had, like, I rushed it so much yesterday because I had to get the video out, and then I scrapped my previous video. Well, not scrapped, I shelved it. but I had to get it out fast, so I didn't actually get to source a lot of the audio for the AI to really machine learn it. So then maybe you guys noticed some bits like of the voices were just not as clean and didn't sound as realistic. I'm gonna go back today, maybe after stream. I'm gonna grab a snack and I'm gonna go back and get the AI to learn a little more and figure things out a little better. So then maybe today the sentences and the conversations will flow a little better. Oh my goodness, the camera. What is going on with this camera, bro? Well, it's not. I know it's not the camera. It's the Elgato like 4K thing. Like, god damn it, it's old as hell. So, do I need a new one? I really don't want a new. I really don't want a new one. Okay. Do you guys want the whole Donald ripping on Joe's age thing to keep going? Because I have more jokes. I have a lot more jokes about the age thing. Maybe I can keep it more subtle, but like I kept it as an overrunning theme in the thing. But like maybe not as on your nose this time, because I memed on it so much for the whole thing. But I do have a couple more gems in there that I could throw in there. But yeah. Okay. So I think I got enough input here. We got waifu versus meta. Character tier list is definitely up there. Male character model is not so much, but it's fine. We got some other options here. Okay. All right. I think I got a great idea. I need 4 pages. We got 4 pages of content, and which roughly equates to like 8 or 9 minutes, which is more than enough. I think when it comes to, I think when these videos gets too long, like 10, 15 minutes, it starts getting maybe monotonous. I mean, it also depends on the quality of writing, right? Like if I just write something amazing, maybe some people can sit here and listen to like a whole podcast of 45 minutes of them just bickering back and forth. But it took me like 5 hours to make the video yesterday, like making the source material and getting AI to learn stuff and to write the script. Hopefully today it'll take like maybe a couple hours, but I can call him Sleepy Joe. Yeah, I try to throw a couple Sleepy Joe in there. Yeah, maybe I'll just keep calling him Sleepy Joe. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to go and maybe work on it, and I'll make sure to check back in tomorrow morning for the video. It'll go live maybe at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right. Spread them out, throw more vids. Yeah, I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to set the like threshold much higher this time, like maybe 2,000. 1,000 was way too easy for you guys. I keep, like, usually when I make like hardcore Genshin videos, they don't do very well. So I usually don't go like so, like, fuck, I should have set 2,000 to begin with. I wasn't planning to work another like four hours on one of these videos, but yeah, as long as you guys enjoy it, I have no problem. To be fair, I did have a lot of fun making it. I was like laughing like mostly throughout the video, but yeah, it'll get old pretty quick. But while it's still kind of funny, like still hot, strike the iron when it's hot. I'll get him to talk about a bunch of stuff and like discuss a bunch of stuff. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the content. Stay tuned for the video tomorrow. And yeah, if you guys can get it to 2K likes, I'll make another one. I'll do it until you guys tell me, okay, Walrus, retire it. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Till next time, urge y'all to stay safe. Peace. Bye bye.